All right, my couture crafters, let's get into heat embossing. This is probably the number one thing that people ask me about ever. So I have cut a card down to, I think that's a 5.5 by 5.5 piece. And because I placed the stamps on this card where they're hanging off a little bit, I can't put this card all the way to the side in my MISTI. So instead, I just center it and grab a bunch of magnets and place them all around the snowflakes, and then I pick them up. These are the snowflakes from the Gina K kit that she had going on. This is the Post-it tape. So it's basically just a long strip of Post-it. So it's sticky. And I'm masking off the top. This card probably would look better in a rectangular style, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty cute like this, but if I were doing it again, I'd probably make it a rectangle, I think. So I prepped the paper with a static powder tool. That one's by Inka Dinka Do, and that will help the powder not stick to areas you don't want it to stick to. Then I just took the Versamark embossing ink, which is just a clear ink, and I placed it, I patted it on the stamps. I inked up the stamps is what I'm trying to say, with clear ink. So you might not be able to see the ink when I lift this up. In person, you can see it, but on camera, not usually. There were a couple of places that didn't get inked up as well as I wanted them to, so I wanted to be doubly sure, so I stamped it again. That's why you have the magnets to keep that thing in place, to keep the card in place. So I'm just running my hands. I'm not really pushing too hard. There you can kind of see the snowflakes. Now I'm pulling up the Post-it tape. You just peel it back on itself, and that area above has no ink on it. So I'm using embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. This is the Alabaster. People swear by Brutus Monroe embossing powders. They're nice. They're kind of luxurious. They're thin. They stick really well. The reason why I have powder sticking to the top there is because the stickiness of the Post-it. I wasn't able to run the non-static powder tool on that area after I'd already stamped it. So I'm just taking a dry paintbrush and dusting off all the excess powder that I don't want to go right there. And then I'm dusting off powder anyplace else that it got that it's not supposed to be. I'm not overly concerned with that line there because I know that I'm going to cover it up with some ribbon. This is really a very pretty, simple card. This card uses heat embossing. You know, that's the design element on black with that stark white. I think it's really, really nice. So now I'm taking a heat gun that I let run for about 30 seconds before I put it on this paper. So I let my heat gun get hot first. And then you just melt the powder. It does not take long for it to melt. And you can see it melting in person. And I'm looking at the card and I'm thinking, you know what? There's some large gaps. So I'm going to add a few more small snowflakes in the corners around where there's a bunch of space still left. So I grabbed a couple more snowflakes and my Versamark ink. And now I'm prepping it again with the little powder tool there. And this one here, I'm not going to use a MISTI. I'm just going to freehand stamp this. I just put that piece of paper underneath so that the excess wouldn't get on my black glass mat. It wouldn't have hurt it. It just would have made it sticky and I would have had to clean it up. And because I'm stamping off, make sure that when you are stamping border to border, you let some snowflakes hang off the side. It gives your eye a place to kind of rest, which probably sounds crazy, but if you're wondering why your stuff looks funny, it's probably because you're trying to get the whole image in a spot a few times. Don't be scared to let your images hang off the side. You'll notice that your stuff looks a little bit better when you do that, especially when you're doing a full background of something. So here I'm adding another snowflake. This one here I didn't let hang off the side, but there's already two that are hanging off the side. You see? You see? Okay, so I went ahead and I heated those up. And now I'm grabbing a sentiment from my Clearly Besotted set. And I'm just rubbing off any extra powder with my hand. Then I go ahead and grab that static tool. That static tool is really important because if you don't do it, you will have powder sticking everywhere and you won't even know why. You'll think that you haven't touched your card, but somehow there'll be powder sticking in weird places. So I'm just eyeballing where I want to put that stamp. Nothing special. I'm able to put that card right up against the side because I don't have any stamps hanging off at this time. And then I just stamp it, still using Versamark embossing ink and Brutus Monroe powder. I have, I think, 4 containers of powder in that Tupperware container. I actually wish that Tupperware container was a little bit larger, but that's okay. So I'm just taking a dry paintbrush and I'm just tapping off and knocking off the excess powder. Even though we prepped it, we still got a little bit of excess sticking on there from that piece of Post-it tape. Now you guys are going to watch me fight with ribbon for no reason. I am probably one of the better bow tiers that I know. And for whatever reason, I don't know. This is just a really sorry bow. I don't know why I did this. I can think of about 3 or 4 different bows or 3 or 4 different ways that I could have cut this bow so that this bow was cuter. But you know what? You guys get the point. You guys know I can tie bows. You guys have seen me tie a bow once or twice before. But for whatever reason, I don't know why I chose this little funky bow. It's a very, very, very simple bow. It doesn't look horrible, but it could just have some more shape to it. And I should have left the tails longer and blah, blah, blah. I could have used the 2-finger method. I don't know what I was doing here. I guess I was just trying to get a bow on there. And then I did. And then I was okay with it and left it like that and moved on, guys. Don't judge me. Do better bows, though, on your cards. Okay, guys, so now it's time for the sentiment. I just grabbed a sentiment, and that's a Gina K block. I like that block because it's long and thin, and sometimes you need a long and thin block. And so I am putting this, actually I put it in my Misty. I didn't even use that block for this. Maybe I thought I was going to line it up. I'm using VersaFine Clear ink for my sentiment. No idea what that sentiment says, but it looks pretty. And I chose to stamp it in the top left as opposed to the center. I put sentiments all over the insides of my card, whatever I'm feeling at the time. And now, you know me. For today, I'm going to use this stamp runner, this little snail runner that I get from Michael's. It's the Tombow permanent one. Don't get the green one. Make sure you're paying attention when you buy those. The blue one is permanent. The green one is poopies. I don't know why the green one does not even semi-permanent stuff properly. It annoys me. All cards have to have a matching envelope, so I looked at the dimensions, and I am doing a square envelope, of course. And I decided to do stark white paper with this card. You punch, turn, pull, and now we're going to stamp our snowflakes in Versamark Clear ink. So crisp, so pretty. And I'm kind of stamping them off to the side. And I do a couple of these. And I'm going over the lines. I'm not trying to make sure that these snowflakes are sitting on the square perfectly. That's kind of a design element. You know me. Stuff has to be weird and quirky and strange. So yes, these snowflakes are hanging off the side. They will wrap. Some of them will wrap around. I think these are some of the most beautiful snowflakes I've ever seen. This is a really nice design by Gina K Designs. And these are good sized snowflakes. They're not as big as the Ton snowflakes that I'm going to try to play with, but these are a good sized snowflake. They're at least the size of the palm of my hand. All right, so now we are gluing the envelope. And that should wrap up this card, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you guys soon.